Okay, we're going to have a look at strap now. Now, I've already done some of the prep work for this, but your strap is 4 inches wide. And what you're going to do with your strap, once you've interfaced it, and you're going to use a woven fusible interfacing, is fold it in half, wrong sides together, so that the long, straight edges match, and press it. Once you've pressed it, you're going to open it up and very carefully fold each of the sides into the fold that you've made in the center of your strap. Again, you're going to press down the sides. So what you'll end up with is that. So both of your raw edges are pressed into the middle. Once you've got that pressed, you're then going to fold that in half so that all of those raw edges are encapsulated between the folds, and you're going to do that all the way along your strap and clip it as you go. And what you'll end up with is something like this. You can use as many or as few clips as you want to. Now, top stitching a strap. If you have a seam guide, then pop it on the side of your just move you over slightly. You can pop it on the side of your on your needle plate to give you a guide as to where you're going to stitch. I don't have a seam guide, I just use the side of my foot. Now I throw my strap up over my shoulder. You can see it's kind of, well, you can only see the boobage, but it's coming up and over my shoulder. I've got my stitch length at 4, and I find one thing to always check is that you've got your bobbin full, because there's nothing worse than sitting there getting engrossed in doing a stitch in a strap and then finding that you've actually been stitching with no bobbin thread. So I use my fingers sort of to I'm not holding it, I'm simply guiding. I've got my fingers either side and I'm using them almost as a seam guide to hold the strap straight. I'm using a nice even speed. Now I will admit that I usually stitch a lot quicker than this, so I am going to actually speed up because I find it very difficult to stitch quite as slowly as that. And I'm stitching the open edge closed first, and I'm stitching at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You find a sort of a nice even pace. Now you have to stop and start on this first one simply because, oh, I've got a thread that's catching out there, simply because you need to stop to take the clips off. Now I find if I do sometimes, if I'm doing faux leather, I won't actually stop, I will just take the clip away like that. But unless you're fairly confident you can do that without wobbling, I would suggest you stop stitching when you take your clips off. A strap is one of those things that if you get it wrong, it's very visible. And this is a 1-inch strap, so we're using the 4-fold strap technique. And the 4-fold strap technique is that it's about the folding. It's that central fold and then 1 fold in either way, and what you end up with is a strap that is 4 layers thick. Now for cotton or even sort of lighter upholstery fabrics, that's an absolutely super weight for a strap. It's strong enough to take the load of a bag, but not so thick that it becomes unwieldy. A strap that's really thick and bulky tends to be really uncomfortable to wear. And you'll also find it's really difficult to get through hardware. Now there are some companies that do hardware that's specifically designed for thicker straps, and you'll find them in supplies lists all over the place, or in certain bag groups will give you information about where you can find those. I'm not going to advertise anything on here. And there we go. That's our first line of stitching completed. Just gonna trim off the end there. And then I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm stitching from the same end as I stitched on the first instance. And I'm going to stitch all the way down on a 1/4 inch seam allowance on the other side. And again, I've got this strap up and over my shoulder. Now, because we don't have to stop for removing clips, I can do this pretty much in one straight line of stitching. And why do we stitch from the same end? Because it helps to stop your strap twisting. Even if you've well interfaced it or you're using very thick faux leather, there will be a little bit of movement in your fabric, and if your presser foot, just the simple action of your presser foot and feed dogs pushing on the fabric on both sides will slightly twist your fabric, and what you'll end up with is a twisted strap rather than a nice flat one. If you stitch from the same end both times, all of the times, depends on how many times you want to stitch your strap, you will get a stretch, but you'll get stretch from the same direction, so you won't get twisting. It's at this point that I like to give my strap a bit of a press. I'm going to, oh, sorry, I'm just catching the camera stand there. I am going to give this a second layer of top stitching, but I just like to give it a good press at this point, just to make sure that everything is sitting where I want it to be. Now, strap lengths are something that people often ask about, and although I've given the length in the pattern for a crossbody strap, or the length that I prefer to use for a crossbody strap, for an adjustable one, if you want to do a crossbody strap that isn't adjustable, or a shoulder strap that isn't adjustable, I suggest the best possible method of doing that is to use a tape measure. And I'll show you that in a second, how the easiest way to do it. Because we're all different. It depends what shape and size you are. If you're a little tiny, slight person, you're going to want a shorter strap. If you're a well-built, bosomy person, you're going to want a longer strap. Let me just grab a tape measure. So, the easiest way to work out what length strap you want is to take your tape measure, fold it through your strap connector, bearing in mind you'll probably want maybe 1.5 inches through the other side to use either rivets or to stitch your strap down. So attach it at one side. You can see that's attached on the side of my bag. I'm going to take my tape measure and pull it through the other side of my bag. I'm not going to secure that side. Well, I will secure it just for a minute while I do this, but once you've done that, pop your bag on. Figure out where you want it to sit, and I'm not going to stand up because you don't need to see, well, the camera wouldn't take me, I need a wide-angled lens anyway. But you can kind of get a feel for where it wants to sit on your body, and then you can alter the tape measure accordingly so that you'll figure out exactly how long you need a strap for you, for your personal shape, fit and physique. So that's the easiest way to figure out, if you're going to do a non-adjustable strap, the right length of strap for you. Make sure you allow for just a few, sort of 1.5 inches at either end for attaching the strap to the bag, because, you know, that's important. Right, so let's Need to find some hardware because we're going to look at both a fixed strap, so a non-adjustable strap, and an adjustable strap. So I'm going to go and find some bits and pieces to do that, and I'll be back in a second. Now let's have a look at straps. It's always a bone of contention when it comes to straps about how one would make a strap. So if you want just an ordinary strap that's not going to be adjustable, you can just take one of your little D-rings, fold over 1/2 inch, stitch across or pop a rivet through, or alternatively stitch across and pop a rivet through, and then put a strap end on there. And you can do that at both ends, and what you end up with is a perfectly serviceable non-adjustable strap that will attach to D-rings. I don't like to see these attached to rectangles because they kind of slide about. That's really not what they're designed to do. So if you have a rectangle on the side of your bag, you can forego with a D-ring. You can just go straight in. Let's just take that from below and attach your rectangle, attach your strap to your rectangle connector. Using rectangles means you don't need to do swivel clips and D-rings. It means you can just use the rectangles. And you'd fit it in exactly the same way. So you'd thread it through and you'd either fold over 1/2 inch and then stitch across to keep all those raw edges inside, or pop a rivet through, or you would leave it open, stitch across, pop a rivet through, and then pop a strap end on there. It's very much up to you, and it depends on what kind of hardware you've got. Now, you would do exactly that if you've got rectangles on both sides of your bags. Obviously, you do exactly the same on both sides. So that's a basic non-adjustable strap. You'll either have D-rings or rectangles, swivel clips and a D-ring, or a rectangle on either end. Now I'm using rectangles on my bag, so let's have a look at sliders. And they come in such different qualities. These are both, or both claim to be 1-inch sliders. Now this one you can see is a beautiful, solid, fixed bar, so the bar in the middle doesn't move. Shiny and lovely. This kind of isn't. It has a moving bar. It's not thick, it's not shiny, and it kind of isn't very nice. It's okay for a cheap and cheerful bag, but I wouldn't use these on a bag that I wanted to sell or a bag that I really was proud of. So, you know, you beware, buyer beware, you get what you pay for. However, these ones with the movable central bar are actually more useful, and you can get better quality ones than this for thicker fabrics because you can move that central bar. So I will show you how to fit one of these. So I'm going to take my strap and I'm going to pop it up through one side. You can see that that's coming up through the one side. It's going down through the other side. So basically what it's doing is I've now got my tri-glide, or slider as they're called, attached via that middle bar. Now you've got a couple of options. You can either fold it over and stitch it, or you can fold it over and rivet or Chicago screw, or you can not fold it over, rivet or stitch, and pop a strap end on there. I'm just literally folding over and I'm just going to stitch across where I folded. The only reason we fold is because we don't want the raw edges of our fabric showing. That just looks untidy. So one line of stitching, and I always do a second line of stitching for good measure because safety matters. Not all machines will cope with the thickness here. You've got quite a lot of layers of fabric if you're doing it stitching, so you know, do be aware of that. That's 4, 8, 12, so that's 12 layers of fabric and 12 layers of interfacing, so not all machines will do it. Anyway, there we go. There's our tri-glide fitted to our strap. It's not going anywhere, it's stitched securely, everything's hunky-dory. Now, if you're using a D-rings and swivel clips, now is the time to put your first D-ring on. So you're going to thread it on at the other end of the strap and bring it so that it's kind of near to where your tri-glide is. And you want it kind of hanging off the bottom of the strap. So I'm going to take the other end of my strap, making sure that it's not twisted. I'm going to bring it up if I'm holding that tri-glide. Now what I want to make sure is that the side where I have that seam where I've done my stitching is kind of on the inside, so it's between the two bits of strap. I'm going to bring it up through the outside, and then I'm going to take it down through the other side. And what we've created, if I pull it a little bit, you'll see is a loop. So I have the tri-glide on there and I have my swivel clip on there. I'm going to go to the other end of my strap and I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. Now I'm not actually going to stitch this because I'm not going to be using the swivel clips, but you can see there, if I just fold that and then clip it in place, what I have is an adjustable strap. So I have my two swivel clips on either end. My strap adjuster is halfway down the strap. Now because I've got rectangles on my bag, I'm just going to unthread this and take the swivel clips off. I can forego with the swivel clips. I'm still going to attach my tri-glide in exactly the same way. I'm going to take my bag and I'm going to take the other end of my strap and bring it, I'm being thick now, sorry. Got my, let me just, I'm doing this around the wrong way for me so that you can see it. So I have my tri-glide in my hand and the join is on the outside. I'm going to take my other end of the strap and I'm going to go down through my rectangle on the side of my bag, pull the strap through. So let me just, if I move this so you can see it. So there we go, there's my tri-glide with the join that I made on that outside, and I've got my strap going down and through the rectangle connector. Now I'll take the other end of my strap, bring it up through the outside of my tri-glide, and then in through the other side. So giving it a pull, and you can see there that it now connects to my rectangle perfectly. Now, it's always advisable to use the correct size rectangles when you're doing anything like this. I often see where people have used slightly larger ones, and I see often people saying, if you've got thicker straps, oh, use a wider connector. Don't use a wider connector. Find one that's designed for thicker straps. If you use a wider connector, they just look slightly odd. And you'll often find if you've used a wider one, they'll twist round and they'll never sit straight. And that seems such a shame. So there we go, that's the first part of our strap done. We're going through the tri-glide, through the rectangle. And I'm going to come to the other side of my bag with the other end of my strap, and I'm going to go up and through underneath the rectangle. What I want is for the join to be on the inside of my strap and not the outside, unless of course it's a design feature that you want it to be on the outside. So again, I'm folding over by approximately 1/2 inch, and I'm going to stitch across there to secure that strap. If you don't want to stitch across there, you can rivet, or you can leave it unfolded and use a strap end. It's about whether you want to use lots and lots of hardware or not. And this is such a simple bag. You can kind of do what you want with her. You don't need me to give you lots of ideas. I think she's a blank canvas for you to play with. So one line of stitching. Two lines of stitching, and I just need to get rid of my thread ends that I've got a bit caught up in there. And there we have it. The bag with no name, with adjustable strap, fully fitted. Now you can choose to do an adjustable strap or a non-adjustable strap. It really is up to you. I've given you the option for both. There we go.